news, fans. Orioles win 8-6 today. We're thrilled about that. 2 out of 3 from the Minnesota Twins. Joe Bersano's Orioles report with the handsome Matt Faulkner is next. Welcome, Joe Bersano's Orioles report with Matt Faulkner. Orioles 2 out of 3 against the Minnesota Twins. Home runs today. Well, home run today by Tyler O'Neill, 3-run home run, 2-run double by Dylan Beavers. Shane Baz a little shaky. The bullpen, Tyler Wells a little shaky. Matt Faulkner, what say you?
Well, what I can tell you is it was great to see some runs on the scoreboard. The first two games of the
Yes.
season were tough to watch offensively. 2 runs on opening day, 1 run in game 2 of this series. So to see the offense put up eight runs, especially after getting down 4-0 in the second inning. So a nice gritty comeback win for the Birds. And anytime that you can go 2 out of 3 and win a series to start the year, you take it. And hopefully they can build up some momentum as we get into the next 3-game set here against the Texas Rangers.
Well, speaking of the Orioles. No, I'm just kidding. We do have a trade today. Let's take a look at that. We think it is from the Los Angeles Angels, Javian Sandwich. For cash considerations. Left-hander was in the Orioles system, and then he was, I guess, designated for assignment, or they cut ties with him in 2020. 6 years later, back in the organization. Do you know anything about Javian Sandwich?
I don't. I'll be honest. I had to do a little bit of research there on him. I mean, as you mentioned, he was in the system. He was, I believe, a 32nd round draft pick back in 2018. The Orioles released him back in 2020. He bounced around with a couple of organizations, and obviously they're bringing him back in. What I think, and this is me just kind of first guessing here, is that the Keegan Aiken injury might be a little bit more serious than maybe they had initially thought. He had that MRI before the opener last week. I think it was on Monday. And so maybe bringing in another lefty reliever that they've got some experience with is more of a move that they're making to have some depth and to have another option in that bullpen, especially a left-handed reliever.
Yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, everyone has said, "Hey, it's the bullpen, the bullpen, the bullpen." So, I guess he's trying to stockpile a few arms as the season progresses. And today, again, we have Javian Sandwich to the Orioles, cash consideration, spent time with the Yankees, in a very small sample size in his MLB debut. ERA is 27 in 2/3 of an innings, but he does have 2 strikeouts. AAA 4.55 ERA. Again, the Orioles add lefty Sandrich. This is depth for the bullpen. The strikeout numbers are legit, but we'll see what happens. But again, the Orioles making these kinds of moves, especially the cash considerations for relievers, in most cases most folks never heard of. I mean, that seems to be the Orioles MO over the past few seasons. So again, today 8-6. Tyler O'Neill, 3-run homer, puts the Orioles down a run at 4-3. And then Dylan Beavers doubles in a pair of runs to put the Orioles on top 5-4. They would come back to tie it And then the Orioles went up and were able to stay up 8-6. Another RBI single today from Kobe Mayo, playing extremely well. Shane Baz, a little shaky. Um, just signed a big contract. And were you happy to see him sign? Is he a guy you wanted to see here for 5 years?
Well, I'll be honest, I was surprised that they pulled the trigger on this extension before they even, had him pitch in a regular season game. It was funny if you were to go on Twitter, after they announced the extension, all the highlights of Boz as an Oriole was all in Sarasota because it was in spring training games. But I think that if he stays healthy, it's definitely a bargain for what they paid him for what I think he can give them if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
I think it's a bargain. Now, obviously, if he gets hurt again, if he doesn't pitch well, then it obviously is not going to look like a good move. But no, I like the move. And you look at the rotation after this season, you've got Boz locked up, you've got Bradish locked up, and Trevor Rogers now becomes that next starter that we'll see if they are interested in an extension during the season or if they're going to let it linger into the offseason. But you got to figure if Rogers continues to pitch as well as he's pitched, that the longer they let this play out, the higher that price tag is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, he is a free agent at the end of this season, correct?
Correct.
I mean, I have every reason to believe if he continues to pitch well, that he is probably going to want to test the waters. And it always gets back to being a business because it's on both sides. Okay, I mean, uh, the Orioles trade two top prospects for him. Kyle Sowers went on to be an all-star. Connor Norby, and now he's going to test the waters because he's pitched well. So at the end of the day, I mean, think about this. If Rogers pitches to an ERA below 3, 2.88, let's say, and then last year 1.8, I mean, Dylan Cease got 7 years, 210 million. So, I mean, and I certainly don't think the Orioles are going to do that. But, what we've seen at least is you lock up you lock up Pete Alonso, you lock up Basayo, you lock up Boz. So you do like seeing that. Now, it's been reported. Matter of fact, Sean Ferguson, Orioles Today, reported this week that the Orioles did make an offer to Gunnar Henderson, and I believe that was last offseason, which he rejected. That's the player I want to see the Orioles sign first and foremost is Gunnar Henderson. What say you?
No, I mean, and I share that same sentiment, but it takes two to tango, as they say. And
Yeah.
as you know, and we've talked about, Henderson is a Scott Boras agent, and particularly with Scott Boras clients, especially the
Hmm.
premier players, what do they have in common? Most of them wait. They're not willing to sign extensions prior to hitting free agency because they're betting on themselves. And you look at Gunnar Henderson, he's under team control until 2029. Um, and I think that he would be I think it would be a mistake if I put myself in Gunnar Henderson's shoes to and he can say what he wants about staying in Baltimore, but it's as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, it's a business. And and so to me, I don't necessarily see Gunner signing any kind of extension anytime soon. I don't. I think that at the very least, it will drag out until, 2027, maybe even into 2028. And he's going to bet on himself. The longer it drags out, the more concerned I am that ultimately somebody else comes in and offers him more money. Um, because if you look at the Orioles roster as it's constructed right now, you have Adley Rushman, who will be a free agent after next season, right? You've
Yep.
got some other guys that will also be coming up on free agent years in the next few years. And they're only going to spend so much money. It's not going to necessarily be an open checkbook. So you've got to figure out who are you going to pay, and if you're going to give Gunner what he is going to command, you're going to
Yeah,
have to be okay with not re-signing some of these other guys. So whether that's an Adley Rushman, a Jordan Westberg, a Trevor Rogers, ideally you keep everyone, but that's probably not what is going to happen. And so there
certainly
are
not.
definitely going to be some tough decisions. And it's sort of one of those things where while you have everybody under contract and you're paying them, rookie deals and they're not making a ton of money, you've got to capitalize while the window's open because going forward, you're going to start losing more and more players because, like I said, you're not going to be able to pay everybody. So I
Yeah,
mean,
well, yeah, I mean,
ideally, Gunner is an Oriole, but we'll see.
definitely. Well, this is what is speculated. Okay. Gunnar Henderson, either 10 to 12 years, between 4 and 500 million. Now, does that sound familiar to you? That's what I said. I mean, Mr. Rubenstein, if you're watching, give him the 400 million because they're not going to be able to do a Samuel Basayo type contract because it's too late now. Like when he was a rookie, okay, and I'm talking before he went off, the Orioles should have probably tried to get him for 6 years, 70 million at that time. But I think, yeah, I mean, what they are saying, the critics are saying that he's 35 million plus a year and he's probably going to want 10 years at least. So yeah, I mean, you're 350, 450 million between 10 and a 12-year contract. And that's the thing. I mean, think about it. Gunnar Henderson, in my opinion, probably the most liked Oriole. We agree on this. I mean, there's
Yes.
more Gunnar Henderson shirts than any other ones going around the ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, the Orioles just signed a deal with Under Armour, and they've got Gunner on every billboard on the back of the
Yeah,
scoreboard. So he's the
right.
face of the franchise. He really is, and he's the
Really?
modern day.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the modern day Ripken. I mean, in terms of when you think of the Orioles, what player does the
Yeah.
casual fan connect or think of when they talk about the
Gunnar.
Orioles? Gunnar Henderson is probably the first name that comes to mind, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's pivotal that you lock him up. As I've said, it takes two sides to make a deal. The Orioles can want to extend him and come to an agreement, but if Scott Boras and Gunner don't want to sign and they want to drag it out, it is what it is. You look at Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt and Gunner arguably are probably the two best shortstops in Major League Baseball. Maybe Ellie De La Cruz is in there as well. And
Right.
Bobby Witt, in February of 2024, he signed an 11-year deal, which right now looks like a steal. The Royals signed him to an 11-year deal, was an extension, $288.7 million, and that was the largest in franchise history. So he is signed through 2034. And it says here that with the options, it could be up to over 377 million. So do I think Witt is better than Gunner right now? Yeah, I mean, I think so. But with the market the way that it is, they're going to have to pay Gunner more than Bobby Witt is making.
I would think so. And at the end of the day, again, as you said, he is the face of the franchise. Now, when you get to pitching part of the franchise, you talk about Kyle Bradish yesterday, 4 1/3 innings, gave up 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. His first start of the season. Did you think that was about up to par, or is that what you expected, or were you disappointed?
I would say it was probably what I expected. I mean, being at the game, it was not conducive to baseball weather. I mean, it was in the mid 40s. It was windy.
Mm,
It's tough, and the first time through the order, he looked good, and then the second time through the order, the velocity dipped a little bit. and the command wasn't as good, and they were able to kind of to get him out of there. I believe in the fifth inning, he gave up a two-run homer to Royce Lewis, and that gave Minnesota the lead 3-1. But I mean, overall, I didn't think it was necessarily his best, but by no means am I panicking or am I worried about Kyle Bradish. I think, like I said, it was his first start of the year, not great weather, tough to pitch in. And so I'm willing to kind of to look past it. I still think that by the end of the year, he's going to look at being probably a top 15, top 20 pitcher in baseball. I mean, I have high expectations for him. I think he's only going to get better as the year goes on. And so no, I'm not concerned at all with Kyle Bradish.
When Holiday comes back, okay, everyday second baseman, is he the leadoff hitter? Or do you leave a guy 36 home runs, well over 100 RBI last season? Do you leave Taylor Ward in the leadoff spot?
If you're asking me on March 29th, I leave Holiday in the bottom of the order. I think that, whenever he comes up, which probably is in the next, 10 days roughly, I don't know that you can just throw him at the top of the order and expect him to be able to, produce. To me, you leave Ward at leadoff, you hit Holiday, eighth or ninth, put him towards the bottom of the order. Don't give him so much pressure. Let him get his feet wet because it's definitely an adjustment going from AAA to the big leagues. And do I think that, at the end of the season, is there a way that maybe he is the leadoff guy? Sure, but I think that throwing him in there right when he comes back up, I think that would be a mistake. So I would continue running out Taylor Ward. Now he obviously has not had necessarily a great start through 3 games. Got has one hit, some bad luck, hit some line drives yesterday that were caught. But you look at his career and what he's done. I think he's going to be fine and he's going to get on base. He's a serviceable leadoff hitter in my opinion, so I leave him there.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I would like to see what what we get him for. We got him for his RBI and home run capability. I didn't I don't think the Orioles traded again a front of the rotation guy when healthy, which he's not again, a Grayson Rodriguez, for a leadoff hitter to get on base. I would have thought, yeah, that he would be more of a middle of the lineup guy, maybe fifth, maybe even third. But again, we'll see how that plays out. Now,
What
one thing
well,
that I'm
let
just
me
so
just let
excited
me
about.
let
Yeah,
me just
please.
jump in. Let me just jump in real quick because I think that when you look at the lineup, I think sometimes we overrate like where guys are hitting. I mean, obviously the first time through the order, the lineup is the lineup, but like after the first couple innings, I don't necessarily think it really makes that much of a difference. You look at the first couple games, the bottom of the order has gotten on base. Those guys have gotten on base. And so if you hit Taylor Ward first, there are guys that have been on base in front of him at that point. So it's not as if he's always hitting with nobody on. He's had opportunities and he will continue to get opportunities because I think the bottom of the order, they're doing a good job. Jeremiah Jackson, he's done a good job when he's played. Blaze Alexander had a couple hits. So to me, Kobe Mayo's swinging the bat pretty well. So, I don't necessarily think that hitting leadoff doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to get opportunities to drive guys in. Going to get more at bats for sure, but their guys are getting on base for him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, you definitely want your key players to get as many at bats as possible, probably, which explains why Pete Alonso's in the number 3 hole instead of the number 4 hole. They're trying to guarantee him those 5 at bats per game. Now, I tell you, Matt, I just really love the pregame, postgame stuff. So tomorrow we'll be back about 6 p.m. For Orioles pregame here, Birdland pregame with your pal Joe Rosano, Matt Faulkner, Michael Sullivan, and then postgame. So, I try to judge these things because you could guarantee a few seasons ago, Matt Faulkner, that the game was going to be about 3 hours and sometimes 3 hours and 15 minutes. With the new rules, etc., okay, these games could last 2 hours and 2.5 hours in some cases, 2 hours and 45 minutes. So 6:30, 7:30, 8:30. We're going to say we'll be back tomorrow post game around 9:30 and hope that's safe. Once again, O's fans, greatly appreciate you hanging out with us. I am Joe Rosano for Matt Faulkner and Michael Sullivan. God bless you. Don't forget to adopt a pet. Orioles win today, 8-6. 2 out of 3 from the Minnesota Twins. Texas Rangers in tomorrow night. And we are going to see the Oriole debut of Chris Bassett. And I think it's just such an exciting time here in Baltimore. Once again, God bless you. Don't forget to adopt a pet, and we will see you next time.